Today we're talking about 10 ways to make your Dynasty experience more enjoyable and realistic. So something I have fallen victim of is getting bored of my Dynasty at times. After a few seasons, then, you may get a little bit bored. So this video is centered around keeping your Dynasty mode interesting, immersive, So I got 10 different ways of doing exactly that. If you like this style of content or this video, make sure you guys drop a subscription. I'll be dropping videos all year, especially leading up to the game. And when the game comes out, I'll be dropping all type of videos for you guys, so make sure you subscribe. So the first thing on my list is you have to choose a program that is interesting to you. For me personally, I'm going with Temple University, and I'm gonna rebuild them, and I want to take them to the SEC, even maybe the Big Ten. Got a few ideas of what I want to do with the program, but you gotta choose something that's unique to you. I'm choosing Temple because it's my alma mater. I went to the school. I also worked for the program for a while, so it's special in my heart. And I know, I'll be dedicated. I'll be super motivated to rebuilding that program because I want to see them do well. Some people are picking a program just because they're the worst school in the game. That's fine. If that motivates you to want to rebuild them because they're the worst school in the game, fine. But a lot of people will need to find like a connection with their program. I know it may sound a little bit weird, but whether it's your favorite program or maybe it's your parents' favorite program, something, maybe it's one of your friends' favorite program, or it's a program that's close to you where you live at, and so make sure it's a program that you will actually enjoy rebuilding, something that you can actually see yourself playing for 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. And then also keep the rebuild challenging, man. Don't pick a super easy team like Michigan or Texas that's on our screen right now. It's going to be super easy to rebuild, and after 1 year when you win the national championship, you might find yourself bored. So make sure you're picking a team that you connect with, a team that you really just see yourself being a part of for a long time. Next on my list is don't be scared to start as an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, especially at a small school. Like, there is also a lot of pride in taking, an offensive coordinator job, let's say at Iowa, a program that, struggled offensively this past year, working your way up to being a head coach. Even if you want to start as a, defensive coordinator at a group of 5 school and then work your way up to being, a defensive coordinator at a Power 5 school, a top-ranked program, then becoming a head coach after a few seasons. And, the one thing about, being an offensive coordinator, ensure you're only playing the offensive side of the ball. We don't know what the game will look like yet, but I imagine, if you pick the offensive coordinator route, I hope they only allow you to control offense. I'm hoping that's the way it works. And if it doesn't work like that, well, just make sure you're putting the rules into the game where you're only controlling the offense, and also only using that playbook. Don't go super crazy with the playbook. Just to keep things realistic. Don't put every single play in the game in your offensive playbook. Of course, have an offensive bag, make your own playbook, but just don't cheese it super much, man. That'll make the game a little bit boring, especially if you're dominating teams you play against. So just keep it realistic and keep it fun. And then on that same point, when you do become a head coach, make sure you're using your offensive and defensive coordinators playbooks, man. And if you're going to use, your own custom playbook, only use it for offense or defense, because there's not any head coaches out there that's calling, at least at the Power 5 level, that's calling their own offense and defense. That's just not how it goes. So make sure you're using at least the playbooks of your offense and defensive coordinators, and that'll make them matter more. This is the first time where we could really hire, those offensive defensive coordinators in, a Madden or, college football game, and it actually really matters. So make sure you're using those playbooks, and if your coordinator have a bad year, if you have a bad offensive year, now I can fire a coordinator and get a new playbook and try some other things out, and it'll just make it super realistic. Next on my list, I'll say play on a hard difficulty, but maybe not hard, but a difficulty that's hard to you. No diddy, if that makes sense. Play on a difficulty that will make it challenging, make the game hard. You should lose games, especially if you're, starting as a bad program. You should not win every game. You may even have a losing season. Like, that is super realistic. So for me personally, I'll bring up Madden. If I play on all Madden, I will win every single game against a computer. And that's not, saying I'm super good at Madden, but it's a computer. It's relatively easy to beat. So for me personally, I know I have to use custom sliders for Madden to make the game competitive, so where I'll actually lose the to tough teams, and I'll actually have some close games. And I imagine this game will be similar. I imagine we'll see when it comes out, but kick it up on Heisman. I say play on Heisman from day one. That's gonna be my suggestion. Play on Heisman from day one and make the game challenging. Especially if you're using a bad franchise or using a bad college. That is the whole point of it. It should be challenging. You should be losing the majority of your game and working your way up to be, one of the top programs through recruiting, through winning, through winning some crucial games, whether you beating the rivals, whether you beating some top programs here and there. But you should never just be dominating your dynasty from day one, especially if you picking one of these rebuilding teams. You need to pick a difficulty that's, suit your play style. And, maybe Heisman is too high. Wherever the difficulty right below that, test that. Test a couple different things, find your perfect setting, and just don't have the game be super easy, because you'll get, essentially you'll just get bored. Hey, this is super easy. I won the national championship with a 70 overall, Temple team. I probably wouldn't play no more, because it's just way too easy for me. So make sure we're challenging ourselves when we're picking our difficulty settings. And then on that same point, when it comes to difficulty, an idea that I will do, and you may want to consider, is when you controlling your middle linebacker on defense or whatever position you control, only stick to that one position. Don't switch off. Essentially, is what it's called. When you're, say I control the middle linebacker, it's a pass deep. I'm not switching on to my safety mid play. You want the player ratings to, at least have some impact on the game. So me personally, I would not be switching on, at least when I'm playing against a computer. I would not be switching on to, try to make user plays. Whoever I start to play with, I'll finish the play with. Obviously on offense, that's different because, whoever have the ball you control. But certainly on defense, just to make things more realistic and, not cheese the game, make sure you're doing that. Or at least give it a try, see how you like it. If you don't like it, cool. But, a lot of people, I think, will make it, a lot more realistic for them. So at least give it a try. Next on my list is keep recruiting and gameplay realistic. I kind of just touched on the gameplay part, so we'll focus on the recruiting. And, if, for example, Temple, like I said, I keep bringing them up, but that's the team I'm going to pick. I should not be pulling 5-star athletes from, let's say, the state of California my first year at Temple. Just not super realistic, man. If I'm in the running for a 5-star, they should be, close to home, I would imagine. From PA, from Philadelphia, New York, maybe Jersey, some of those surrounding areas. And, it's obviously going to be a video game. There's going to be ways, to cheese the recruiting. I hope recruiting is not going to be super easy like it was in, 14. And from everything we've seen, I have no reason to believe it will be easy. But I think there will always be like a way to finesse recruiting. So just making sure we're not taking advantage of the game in recruiting, because that'll just make it super easy. If I'm pulling, a top 20 class my first year at Temple, not super realistic, just not super realistic, man. I should start off as, maybe a top 50 class my first year, and then, after having a few winning seasons, then I'm pulling top 20 classes, and, maybe a top 5 class after I transfer, or after I move them to the SEC, like I love to say, and, somewhere around that route. But, do not cheese the game, especially recruiting, man. That's going to be super unrealistic. And make sure you're going after recruits that you're actually in the running for. As a head coach in the game, you could pick, what type of coach you want to be. And essentially, I would pick motivator and not recruiter for Temple, because, Temple is not a big recruiting powerhouse. It's just not. So I'll pick motivator, and kind of thought process behind that is, the athletes that we do have, they may be 2-star, 3 stars, the occasional 4-star might even show up. And but the whole point of being a motivator is the talent that we do have will get better. We're able to motivate the athletes and, actually get the best out of the athletes that come to the school. So make sure you pick in, your head coach archetype correct to your school. If you have, a really big, fan based, a real big time school, let's say like Miami, you might want to pick recruiter, even though that's not a good rebuild to pick, but you might want to pick recruiter because you have the potential to bring in a lot of big time recruits, as we've seen in the past. But just pick the, your archetype based off, your school program, your school history, and just keep it realistic. Keep recruiting super realistic in this game, and I believe that'll make for a better and more enjoyable experience playing the mode. Also, when it comes to the gameplay piece, keeping that realistic as well is important. Not running the same play 75 times in one game just because we trying to cheese a win. That's not super realistic, and that'll essentially lead, for me personally, to be burned out and not really want to play the mode as much. So just making sure you're being realistic. If your school have a certain type of play style, try to play to that play style. For example, when the Army, when the military schools, they love to run the ball a lot. Try to play to that play style if you're going to go to one of them schools. If you go to Army and just try to have an air raid offense, shout out to you, but not super realistic. Maybe in the future, after a few years, y'all transition to a more pass friendly offense. Okay, that's understandable. But first year, throwing the ball 50 times a game with Army or Navy, just not super realistic. So try to keep the gameplay realistic, and that'll lead to a better experience playing the mode. Next on my list is don't cheese the game. Just don't cheese the game. There's always gonna be cheese plays, always gonna be cheese ways to cheese recruiting. Whatever it is, don't take advantage of it. Don't take advantage of it. Don't go on YouTube looking up the most cheesy plays and making a playbook and just cheesing the AI to death and winning every game. That's gonna lead to the game being boring after a while. And that goes back to the point of just like kind of being more realistic, man. No reason to cheese a dynasty mode. We here to rebuild from scratch. We here to build the program up and do it the right way and do it the way we all love. And that's the reason why we all want this game to come back, not to cheese it. So every game has cheese in it. It's up to you if you gonna be a part of it. Next on my list, pay attention to the details in your dynasty. I think the first year in your dynasty, it'll be relatively easier to pay attention to some of the players. You may already know some of the names in the sport. Some of the Heisman candidates, some of the better schools, some of the head coaches that may be on hot seats. But even as your dynasty progress, make sure you're just paying attention to those things. Who are the best players in the league, man? Like every year, after every game, go to the box scores and see, what teams got upset. Maybe Georgia lost to, an unranked school. Just make sure you're paying attention to those type of things and staying up to date in your dynasty, and that'll just make you enjoy it a lot more and make things a lot more realistic. So one thing just to make sure you paying attention to your dynasty. Another example of that is for looking at the team you playing that week and looking at their roster, looking at their stats. Their wide receiver might just have a 200+ yard receiving game, okay, and he might only be a 75 overall. But if you didn't go look at the stats, if you didn't go look at the rosters, you would have had no idea. He might be a true freshman, under the radar type guy and having a great season. And you would have had no idea if you went and checked. So make sure you're just paying attention to the little details. It'll make sure it'll just have you a lot more immersed in the game. And it might not be for everyone, but certainly something I'll do just to keep my interest level high in my dynasty mode. Next is to set goals and restrictions. When you first start your dynasty, have a goal of, hey, I want to take this team and put them in another conference. I want to rebuild the Pac-12, but slowly. Or, I want to, slowly build this team up. I want to start off, in my first 3 years, I want to make a bowl game and win a bowl game. Start off with goals for your dynasty. Set long-term and season goals, and why not even set game goals? This game I want to, maybe I've been getting killed all season. I want to at least compete this game. We playing a big-time school. I want to at least compete. I want to at least, have a good game. Maybe it's another season, hey, I got this 95+ player on my team. I want to be a Heisman candidate by the end of the season. So make sure you're setting goals for your team to keep you motivated. And then the second piece of that, set restrictions. Whether it's recruiting restrictions, whether it's gameplay restrictions, so essentially not cheesing. Maybe like I'm keep bringing up Temple. Maybe I won't recruit anyone from California because they're just too far, not realistic. Won't recruit anyone from all the way from the West Coast because it's just not super realistic for them to come out to Temple, at least at this point. So set restrictions for yourself and for your gameplay, so you're not just cheesing and to keep the gameplay difficult but also fun and immersive. Next on my list is learn team names. If you don't already know all the teams and the game, take some time to learn them. Learn logos. And then also learn the players on your team. I say bare minimum, you should know like the first or last name of all 22 starters, and that might be tough for your O-line, your right guard, your left guard, he might not be very good, but at the end of the day, it'll make your gameplay more immersive, and then also learn some of, the key subs, whether you have, 5 wide receivers that's very good, learn all 5 of those wide receivers, learn some of the players on your team that have potential, and by their junior year to, be a starter, and then also learn recruit names, just learn a lot about your franchise, so you're actually invested, and when a play happens, you're not questioning who just made that play on my team, and you have to go to the roster and figure out who is this guy. You should already know everyone on your team damn near, and especially I mentioned earlier, when you're playing another team, take a peek at their roster, so you know who made the play on the other team, what's going on in the game, so you're just a lot more immersed in the gameplay. Next on that list is learning your team history. Whether, you come from a great program that have some rich blood and, they're just having a few down years, or whether they, a program that have been struggling, their whole entire history, and of late, you had some better years and, you take over. Just learn the history of your program, learn also like the culture of your program, whether it's, Penn State and the whiteout games, every school has some version of that, some version, some traditions, that no other school have. So, if you're picking a program that you're not super familiar with in real life, take some time to learn, why this program is special. And, if you're picking James Madison just because, you think they're going to be a tough rebuild, well, actually learn a little bit about James Madison, man, where they're located, what type of recruits they typically get in real life, and then also, apply that to the gameplay. So just keep everything super realistic and make sure you learn as much as you can, throughout your franchise. Next on the list is create challenges if things are too easy. For example, I think one rebuild I'll do, a single video rebuild, and I want to do a transfer only, kind of similar to what Deion did, with Colorado, and how he came in and, he kicked everyone out, brought his own people in. I want to do that. I want to get that try, and that's just making a challenge, for no other reason than I think it'll be a fun experience. Why not add that to your, your dynasty that you're gonna play, whether it's daily, once a week, wherever you're gonna play it. One idea that comes to mind is, I'm only gonna recruit 3 stars until I win a bowl game, and then after I win a bowl game, then I'm able to recruit 4 stars, and then after I make the college football playoffs, then I can recruit 5 stars, something along them lines, just to make things a little bit more challenging, to make your dynasty last a little bit longer, because for me, once you win the national championship, the dynasty is almost over. You could go for the 2-peat, but once I win that, that championship, I think for me it's time to get into another dynasty, another rebuild. So make sure that rebuild is make it last, is what I'll say. To my list is to create storylines or even drama with your roster. I know it sounds a little crazy, but an example I think of, you may have a guy that want to transfer out. I love that you can see people that's potentially want to transfer out. It just was on the screen right there, and with that you could come up with the storyline that, hey, this guy, he was a bad locker room guy, he didn't want to work hard, lazy, so that's why he's not receiving the playing time he want. And, if he want to transfer out, so be it, let him transfer out. We get some guys in here that actually want to be here, So creating them storylines, creating them drama on the staff, we'll just make things a lot more, immersive and, in depth. And that's the whole idea of this video, just creating layers and layers and layers in your franchise, man. So at the end of the day, you want to do whatever will make the gameplay most enjoyable for you, whatever make the dynasty, the whole experience most realistic and immersive and enjoyable for you. For me personally, some of the things I named, that's the things that's make, the gameplay and everything more enjoyable, man. Cause if I just play the game super competitive, play it like it's pretty much an online game, I feel like I would not lose a Dynasty Mode game, and that's not the point of it. We're here to rebuild. We're here to, build up the program, and, we want the attributes of each player to matter. We want the coaches' stats to each matter. Whatever level your coach is, we want all those things to matter. We want how good of a recruiter you are. We want everything that matters in real life college football to also matter in the game. So if you just play it super competitively like you would, like you would like online Madden or something like that. You know, you won't have, you know, the most fun. You know, you have to play it a little bit more casually, I feel like, you know, just to, you know, keep the whole experience fun and unique. And that's what works for me. You know, feel free to drop in the comments what works for you guys, man. I'm all ears. You know, I want to make the gameplay as good for y'all as, you know, and also good for me. So, you know, drop whatever ideas y'all have in the comments. Anything y'all disagree with, drop it as well, man. I'm open for all feedback, man. But if y'all made it this far in the video, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, all that, man. Check out a few of my other videos that I recently dropped about the gameplay. I'm dropping daily videos, you know, about, you know, college football 25. And once it drops, you know, I'm gonna have so many different rebuilds, you know, road to glory. I'm gonna have everything going on. So make sure y'all subscribe, and I appreciate y'all for watching.